This segment is brought to you by Central National Bank. Put our ag professionals to work for you.
Welcome back to Ag AM in Kansas. At the River Valley Experiment Day, we talked with one of the researchers about soybean sudden death syndrome and its symptoms that producers can find.
Today at the field day, we discussed soybean sudden death syndrome, SDS for short. And we talked about ways that we can try to manage that, and we focused a lot of our attention on host plant resistant varieties, and we talked about the range in resistance, and some varieties are much more resistant or tolerant to the pathogen, the fusarium that causes the disease, than others. And so we talked about that. We also talked about the relationship between SDS and soybean cyst nematode. The soybean cyst nematode also a very important pathogen in the Kansas River Valley and other places in Kansas. And the two diseases oftentimes are found together, and to manage one, you really need to manage both. And so we discussed that. We also discussed some new technology that might be coming down the pike that's being evaluated. It's a seed treatment that's produced by Bayer Crop Science. And we talked about the results of those trials here at the Kansas River Valley Experiment Field, and also over at the Topeka field here in 2013. They're both very difficult pathogens to deal with, but what producers can do is seek out, to the best of their ability, resistant varieties, the best resistance they can for both pathogens. Crop rotations are useful, especially for soybean cyst nematode. Much of the problem when we see in soybean sudden death syndrome are in irrigated trials. So irrigation management becomes very important. How much irrigation you do in terms of vegetative development, how big the canopy gets, and so on. And then what happens with rainfall distributions, and how you complement the rainfall distribution, the soil drying, and so on with irrigation. All that can be managed and have an influence on the pathogens, but you can't totally control what happens out in the field. Well, SDS is caused by a fungus. It's a fusarium. It actually enters the plant early in the growing season, so it infects through the root system and colonizes the root system. And so it's in the plant during the growing season. And we don't understand what all happens, but as the plant grows and develops, and in particular in high yield potential environments, it creates an environment for the pathogen, for the fusarium, to produce a toxin. And that toxin then, and it's produced in the roots and the lower part of the stem, that toxin then is translocated up into the leaf, up into the canopy, and it can cause just a yellowing of the canopy, but also can cause death, necrosis of the canopy. And when that occurs, then the plant function stops. What triggers that are whatever the conditions that favor plant development, seed fill, rapid seed fill periods, so adequate moisture, cool growing conditions. And sometimes we have those conditions here in Kansas, in the Kansas River Valley, and other times we do not.
American innovation is being driven in places you might not expect by people like Brent Hayek, an Oklahoma family farmer, who recently set a world land speed record in a Ford Super Duty pickup truck powered by renewable B20 biodiesel. Advanced performance is here, now, putting America on the fast track to more jobs and energy independence. Biodiesel, America's advanced biofuel.